So I'd created an amazing product, an amazing brand with great potential. Amazon wanted to stock it. I was stocking it all over the country. Brilliant product. Everyone wanted more of it.
I can't imagine how hard it must have been running the granola business. It must have been like trying to push a rock up a hill. It would just be fueled by your passion, your energy.
I think it was passion, energy, because when I was leaving the partnership, which was a really difficult decision, one of the partners that was retiring basically came into my room and said, "You're making a massive mistake. Like, you're a great doctor, you're a great partner. This is the best partnership you could possibly have.
Yeah.
And to go and make breakfast cereal. Like, what the hell are you doing?"
From doctor to breakfast cereal maker. Yeah.
And essentially I did medicine because somebody told me I couldn't. So I went to my chemistry teacher. I said to him, "I'm going to do medicine." And he kind of fell about laughing and said, "That's never going to happen. You're never going to be a doctor." I think retrospectively there was a little bit of belligerent, but actually it's only now, again, with that reflection, that it all makes sense for me now.
Great to have you here, Dr. Joe Watkins. You are a Wonder Woman, I'll say. I've had two people on my podcast who referenced you last year. And oh yeah, I work with Joe. I think one of them was this radiology doctor who has now become a health coach.
Yeah, love Ruth.
Yeah, Dr. Ruth Machine. And then Claire also was on my podcast very earlier on, I think last year, and reference to you. So I thought, yeah, I know you've got 4 children.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you homeschool them?
At the moment, the 18-year-old is doing the A-level equivalent at home, but she's very much she's around, but she's self-taught. And the other 3 are currently in school, but one of them was homeschooled till he was 10. And then I homeschooled the 3 boys for 4 years together. So they're all kind of different. And that's a reflection of what we've kind of come across in terms of what works for them and the education system as well. So it's kind of been a process. Yeah.
Wow. I can't wait to get into that. And while you were doing all that, you somehow managed to sort of build a business, supporting doctors building businesses. I know you've had a previous business. Your email, anyone who has emailed you, we know, because you have Joe at Bendy Legs. I'm like, what's Bendy Legs now? It's like is that Monkey Pants Production? Where did these names come from? Yeah, so just for anyone joining us, if you join us at this point, I'm with Dr. Joe Watkins. She has been described as a human catalyst for medics, entrepreneurs. So doctors, healthcare professionals who want to start their business, they want to go from 0 to 1 and don't know where to go. She guides women medics as well to build flexible, purposeful online businesses that fit around family life. And she's the host of the Startup Support Surgery podcast, so SOS, and the BSG newsletter. So Dr. Joe is actually a real doctor. She's a GP. She's actually trained. And I always say it's not like Dr. Dre. He's a real doctor. He's gone to med school. He's a qualified GP and has built a life for herself, basically, and now coaches doctors along those lines. So welcome, Joe. What did I miss?
Oh, Andy, it's so good to be here. It feels like a long time coming.
It is.
I kind of feel like my husband needs to be sitting next to me because none of this would be possible if we weren't a team.
Absolutely.
I think it's amazing to just sort of take moments like this to kind of reflect on where I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's the cringy word. Nobody likes it, but anything outside of the NHS, anything outside of what we have been kind of put on the conveyor belt to do is a process and a journey of learning. And you just have to get out there and just start. And I think that's now what I feel like I'm a flagship for, is actually starting. And I've kept the Bendy Legs name in my email. I'm not letting that go because that was the first time I really stepped outside of medicine and did something on my own. And now, 15 years later, I'm holding other people's hands and helping them with that journey too.
7. There are 7 steps to take before you even start thinking of investing as a doctor or healthcare professional. Now, this is really important to secure your financial foundation before you start investing. Now, I've covered these 7 steps in a simple guide that I've made available for you in the link in the description. You can download it. It will help you to build a solid financial foundation, avoid common investing mistakes, and also make tax-efficient investment decisions. Start your investment journey the smart way. Download the guide now using the link in the description, and good luck on your investing journey. Now let's get right back to the episode. Amazing. Now, basically, I can feel a bit of that nostalgia when you say I want to hold on to that old account because it reminds me of where I've come from. But for someone who doesn't know, because I think we've talked quite a bit before the podcast, back and forth, chatting about things, being in doctorpreneurs and other stuff together. So just walk us through your journey. Were you always thinking I'm going to be a doctor, and then midway I'm going to be a GP, and then become a business coach and do all these amazing things? So how did you figure it all out?
No, of course, I had no idea how this was going to end up. But I had a very traditional schooling. My dad was a doctor, my mum was a nurse, everyone around was medical. It was just medicine was my world. But I wasn't an A grade student. I was very middle of the road, and back then you could be middle of the road, but you could be just a nice person. And essentially I did medicine because somebody told me I couldn't. So I went to my chemistry teacher. I said to him, I'm going to do medicine, and he kind of fell about laughing and said, that's never going to happen. You're never going to be a doctor.
Oh gosh.
Never going to be a scientist. And I thought, well, actually, you. So I think retrospectively there was a little bit of belligerent, don't tell me I can't do something, and that has continued. There's a pattern there, right? So there's a bit of proving somebody wrong in there, but actually it's only now, again, with that reflection that it all makes sense for me now, because I'm now I wouldn't be able to do what I am doing now so organically and so sort of authentically if I wasn't a doctor. And I have had the most incredible opportunities, life, travel, friends, learning. I mean, I do think being a doctor is the biggest privilege. As a GP, somebody opens the door, and if we had all the time in the world, what an incredible privilege to have that person sharing their innermost secrets, their innermost worries with you, and being able to help them. And that's really why I went into general practice. I played a bit with pediatrics. I traveled an awful lot after my house jobs. I spent a couple of years out in Australia and traveling. And I just thought that general practice kind of wrapped it all together. I love people. I at the time, I was like, I like being in charge of my own destiny and my own time. I like people. I like kids. I like a bit of everything. I'm a bit of an all-rounder. So it kind of made sense to do general practice. And it was also, I think, at that point, entering into my late 20s, early 30s, it was what I should do. And I remember this little voice saying, well, and I wasn't very excited by it. Like I didn't, and I thought to myself, well, maybe that's just work. You're not supposed to be excited about work. You're supposed to just get up and do it and get paid and go home and have a nice time. So I kind of just went along with what I was supposed to do and what everyone else was doing. And I did my GP training up in Manchester with a load of our friends from university. So we had a great time, and it was really social, and everything was I enjoyed life, right? Therefore I enjoyed medicine as well. Dave and I met up in Nottingham. We were both working up in Nottingham, and we were both like early 30s, and we very quickly decided that we were going to get married and go off traveling together, and we were going to move down to the coast to have a family. He'd lived and worked down in South Wales before. I'm from North Wales, so it made perfect sense. Let's move down to the coast and start our life. And at that time, I was very much, the biological clock was ticking, and I was a locum, and I loved being a locum. I absolutely loved managing my own diary
because of the flexibility.
100%, the flexibility, not fighting people for holidays. I actually really loved it. But again, there was this should voice saying I should want to be a partner. I should want something more than locuming. And at that point, I was locuming in the most amazing practice with some of my now lifelong friends. But I couldn't. Wow. I had an amazing opportunity to do a maternity locum or a sick leave locum for them, and they offered me a 2-day-a-week partnership.
Wow.
And
okay.
I was like, well, they offered it to me, assuming that I was going to bite their hands off. So it was quite a
Yeah.
fun kind of proposal where I was like, oh gosh, I'm not sure I do want to do that. Like, why not? And so I think inside me, I've always wanted to do something else, but I haven't had the opportunity or the creative outlet to think about what that might be. So I went into the partnership with my great friends who I still love, and it was as good as any partnership could possibly be.
Yeah.
But there were a few niggles, like a few kind of times I booked my holiday and then someone else needed it, and a few kind of like, and I was like, I don't like this fighting what I want. You know, I like my independence. I like managing my own diary. Anyway, that, you know, a couple of kids later. So I had my 2 first kids as I was a partner. I was a GP trainer. I'd revamped the practice website. I'd done as much as I could. You know, entrepreneurially, I'd done as much as I could. And that was actually one of the partners said to me, you're quite entrepreneurial, aren't you? And I didn't really even know what that meant, having not really had an entrepreneurial role model in my life or anything.
Yeah.
And then that summer, was when we went on one of our trips to Canada, and I discovered her granola recipe, which was this breakfast cereal. Like, you know, granola is a normal thing now, but this was
there was a granola. I think there was a revolution at some point when it became like the healthy stuff. Just like at some point, people were having like ayahuasca retreats and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I was I was a bit early to market. This was 15 years ago.
Wow.
And nobody was really eating it in the cafes or anything in this country, but it was big in Australia, big in Canada, big in New Zealand. So anyway, I came back and I started making it. And my husband, who is to blame for quite a lot of these moments, said, you can sell this in the local cafes. And that was the beginning. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And I did it properly, rough and ready. I had, you know, I did it. I created a recipe. I let lots of people try it. I then just went to a market literally with a big box of it and some paper bags to get people to try it, to see whether they liked it. I didn't invest loads of money into branding or anything like that. The shiny stuff. I just got on with it. Have I got a product that is a product market fit? Does this solve a problem? There are so many sugary, horrible granolas out there. This is better. Do people want it? And I started from there. And that basically was a kind of 3-year massive learning curve. I had no idea what I was doing. No idea what a brand was. No idea how to market or sell stuff. And it was just the most incredible learning by doing. And I'm a big fan of learning by doing. Medics love learning, but they love learning behind closed doors. In silos, not telling anyone anything. You've got to get out there and make sure that you've actually got something that people want before you spend lots of time and money on it. And that was the granola. So 3 years later, I was, you don't want to know. I mean, you talk about mad woman. Like, that was crazy. Pregnant with number 3, 2 kids and a dog, 30 kilos of granola out of the kitchen every day, and packing it, sending it, like markets, shops, online. It's meant absolutely crazy.
I can't imagine.
And too crazy, because actually what I'd created was a business that only I ran. I didn't outsource. I had somebody helping me make it, but I didn't outsource anything, none of the marketing, none of it. I did it all myself. And I got to a point where I just didn't know which hat to take off. I was so like, and it was really hard doing something on your own. I did have a baker that wanted to maybe share equipment so I could do it in the afternoon, but I had to make big decisions, and I needed investment, and I had no money. I wasn't paying myself. I was just putting the money back into the business. And I needed basically about £250,000 worth of investment, and I needed a factory employing about 12 people. And that's when I thought, what have I done? I've created a business that, and I now know I'd created a business that wasn't aligned with any of my values at all. But I didn't know what my values were, because I'd never stopped to
never thought about it.
So I'd created an amazing product, an amazing brand, with great potential. Amazon wanted to stock it. I was stocking it all over the country. Brilliant product. Everyone wanted more of it, but no strategy in how I was going to produce it, how I was going to distribute it, how I was going to grow it, nothing. And And that was a real learning curve, because I realized then I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to take that risk. I didn't want anyone else to take that risk in me. And that was a bit of a scary moment, because I thought, gosh, I've done 3 years of working really bloody hard at this, and I now don't want to do this anymore. And people still to this day say to me, "Oh, do you still make granola?" I'm like, "No, I do not."
That's it. We're going to jump into all of that. It felt like a mirror, holding up a mirror and looking, because I've had a similar journey. Mine was maybe early 20s, and you're thinking, well, you just started this stuff organically because he had product market fit, but there was no overall strategy or direction. And that's one of the ways what you're doing now is helpful, because most times if you had a mentor or a coach or someone who could say, I just think, how stupid was it that I had a business and I shut it down because I got too busy and I went for national paramilitary service. Maybe if there was a system in place, that couldn't have happened. So in your case, you were the business. You were the system. You were the production. You were making the marketing decisions. And obviously, I'm sure you know now, with things like granola bars or even some type of food stuff, is a branding business rather than a production business, because the branding is what people see before they make a buying decision. So that's quite a journey. It seems like you did the courageous thing most entrepreneurs don't do. You realized that this is not the pathway you wanted to go in. It could make you a bit of money, but you didn't go ahead and do what some people I've seen do. As an investor, I tend to talk to people who have businesses and different ideas. And some people just go ahead and take on that investment and try to push everything through. What does happen is that by the time you brought in people on board, it becomes more complex, more complicated. You've got people on your cap table who've invested quite a bit of money in your business, and maybe some of them might even want to call the shots. And if you then decide to call it quits, then you just have that on your records. But what you've done is that you've actually learned for 3 years. You've gone to MBA, 3 years MBA, real world MBA. So I don't think any of it was a waste. I think it actually empowered you with what skills you have now. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't do, and that's one business. There's actually a couple of other stories in between, but that one learning, there's no way I could do what I'm doing now without that learning. And I am all about simplicity now. I'm all about stripping it back, keeping your business really simple, not needing to have investment and all of that, like you say, that weight on your shoulders of other people. And I think I could have got investment for Bendy Legs, and it's a great product and a great brand. And with the How people that I then went into, that we'll talk about in a minute, but that again, I think because there were me and Polly were behind it, people do invest in the humans behind the business, right? And I think we could have gone out there and got investment, but we didn't want that over us, and that's okay. And actually, as a mum and as somebody that travels and as somebody that lives differently, I work around the kids, around school holidays, school hours. I don't want to be answering to anybody. I don't want to have somebody with lots of money invested in my business who can make decisions. I want to make decisions myself. And actually creating a lean business with you at the helm, with outsourcing to people that can help you on a project-based business with different things, that is a fantastic way of building a business, building a personal brand, and helping people in a different way. And at the end of the day, that's what most medics I come across are very frustrated, that they can no longer help people in the way that they want to. They want to continue doing good work. I haven't met any doctor who's, well, I have a couple and I haven't helped them, but any doctor that I help it's about the money. It's not about the money. It's about how they can support and help people in a more efficient, effective and better way. And that's the kind of person that I want to support, because what generally happens is that first year, as you will know again and again, that first year is full of ups and downs and roadblocks and kind of like, oh shit, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And you need a mentor by your side to support you. And I only wish that I had the equivalent of me, or somebody that was a bit ahead of me, because I think I would have what would it have saved me? Maybe it would have saved me time.
Oh,
Maybe I don't wish, because actually I wouldn't have done the learning, but I've done the learning for so long now
yeah.
in lots of different areas that I feel I can kind of condense that for people so they can say, right, this is what it's about. This is what I need to do. And sometimes it's not for you, because I don't think entrepreneurship's for everybody. And that's,
No.
I
Yeah.
think it's okay to say this is not for me. But I'm really, really glad I gave it a go.
Wow, that's impressive. Basically, is that level of self-reflection, because we do all this. Like I've had to do an appraisal yesterday, and I had to count to make sure I go up to the 40 sessions in a year and all that. And so as medics, we do appraisals and we reflect on our practice. But sometimes when we start thinking about entrepreneurship, we forget that reflection to think, what are my values? Where do I want to go? What do I really want to do? And you've mentioned something really quite important. Lifestyle business, that's what you've described here, versus performance business. So if you take an investment of $250,000, you are in a different territory. You're now in a performance business, you're chasing goals. Sort of like, it's the kind of game I think at 22, 21. But I'm not saying people can't do it, but when you've got a family, children, a dog, and a practice, then you have to make that critical distinction to say, do I want to continue as a lifestyle business that the business serves you, even though you're serving people, but basically you're not a slave to the business? Or do you want to go for a performance business that maybe you can get, like in the future, 100 million valuation, 1 billion valuation, and that's what happens. But some people just prod on. And the other thing you mentioned was sort of like saving people time. I know you had to go through the whole learning process by yourself. But as I get older, so I'm now in my late 30s, I just look back to my 20s when I was launching stuff and doing things and getting product market fit. I just wonder, how much would it have saved me if I just had someone who's just clearly saying, oh yeah, you're doing right, but you need to start hiring now. Thinking about stuff like that, having a clear approach rather than being the business. So in your journey so far, from the granola bars, what was the business? What was the name?
Bendy Legs Granola. So it was a bar. It was like a cereal, like a box of granola. But it could have been a bar. That could have been one of the ways we took it.
So let's get into that just a little bit. How was your distribution? How are you selling it?
I was selling it through online businesses, so online directly to me. So they order directly from me. I was selling it to delis and farm shops. So I was distributing via a courier. So they'd order like 30 bags and I'd box it up and it would leave the front door. So it was all coming through the house. And then I would do markets and food festivals. So I'd load up the van with hundreds of bags of it that I'd prepared here. So I prepared it in the kitchen, bagged it in the area above the garage. We had a whole packing area. And then all of the ingredients would come in the back. I'd go out, package up, and then it would go from courier from the front door.
Right. So how was that fitting in with your medical career? Because it sounds like you're really like so full of
mental. I mean, it was at the time, the medical career bit was okay because I left my practice and I went into the minor injury unit and I was working 8 till 2 twice a week in the minor injury unit. So I was bringing in some money. This is again something I talk very much to my clients about. If you are working and you're wanting to start a business, don't jump ship too soon, because it takes a while for your money to come reliably through your business. And I think most entrepreneurs would say, it takes a good 3 to 5 years for a reliable income to come in. So don't leave the day job, which I didn't do. I had 2 days a week working, but it was more the kids. It was actually more putting tea on the table at 6 o'clock evening, because I had to do all this in the evening.
School runs.
It was crazy. And obviously it had to be wiped down, industrial unit, dog out, no kids. We basically ate baked beans and pasta on the stove because I couldn't use the oven for anything that wasn't granola. So it wasn't great. And it really didn't fit with children. And I think you talked about a lifestyle business, and I think I didn't know that distinction. So at that time I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Yep.
And when I started the granola, and by the end of it, I was pregnant. I got pregnant with another one. And there was one person that said to me, and it wasn't a business mentor, it was somebody I sat next to at my dad's 70th birthday. So one of his wise friends. And I was starting this granola business, and he was like, look, Joey, I love it. I love the branding. It's amazing. This was right at the beginning. I love the branding. I love the product.
Yeah.
But he said, nobody makes decent money out of a product if they're making it themselves. So you need to not make this product at all. And I was, at that point, I was loving the whole like wearing a hoodie, like, oh my granola, totally like buying into the whole thing. And I remember thinking, oh, well, you know, that's not going to happen. I'm going to make it myself. And then but that was the best bit of advice.
Yeah. I
ignored. And I went to a food festival down at Harrods about 3 days later. And I met this woman who was like beautiful, like well turned out.
Yeah.
Incredible, with her beautiful brownies, beautifully branded. And I said to her, oh, where do you make them? And she kind of looked at me and she was like I don't make them. What are you talking about? Why would I make them? And I was like, oh, right. Okay. So yeah, I realized I did not have a lifestyle business. I had a job. Yeah, I had a job that nobody else could do. But I like the concept of a life first business. That's what I call it now.
Life first.
I build my life around, I build my business around my life. So I try not to take any calls after 3 o'clock. So I'm with the kids, able to run them around. You know, I actually give myself a bit of time in the morning before I start my live calls. I don't do anything in the holidays. This is the first day I've worked in the Easter holidays. My son's sitting on the TV, TV next door, and I feel very bad about it. But it's fine. They're okay. They need to see that their mum and dad both work.
Yep.
So yeah, it's about building your life, building your business around your life. And I think the big thing the big shift we've had is after we decided to go traveling for a year. So after the granola closed, I basically just mothballed it and I kept the brand and I've just stopped.
Yep.
We then had a period of kind of calm where I was just working 2 days a week in MIU, but I was thinking, what's the next thing? And that's when we decided to go traveling. So we took 4 kids traveling for a year. And that's when the whole homeschool thing started.
Who does that?
10, 8, 4, and 2.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that was the best year of our lives, like hands down. But it opened up all sorts of cans of worms, like, you know, education, what that looks like, the fact that all kids are different. They all have different needs.
Yeah.
The fact that actually people work differently. So it's when I first was introduced to personal development and coaching, and I kind of self-coached myself. I didn't have I still needed a mentor, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But I heard about, you know, people working online, digital nomads, people working around travel, and I thought, oh, hello, this is more like it. And this was the values piece, right? Still haven't done my values, still don't know what they are.
I can't believe we're just discovering this after running the granola business. So I can imagine how hard it must have been, because people tend to go from personal development to business. So that tends to be the pathway, at least for people like I know, tend to start from personal development, then they're inspired, and then that way they have a way of getting business CPD. Developing, just like I was self-coached in a lot of stuff. This is how to get financially smarter in just 5 minutes. Sometimes the difference between making smarter financial decisions and costly, horrible financial mistakes is having the right information at the right time for the right person. So every week I write the Moneywise Doctor weekly newsletter. It's an email newsletter packed full with valuable financial insights and updates to help you make smarter financial decisions and avoid costly mistakes. Some of the areas I've been covering over the last 70 weeks include actionable tips on tax strategies, pensions, investing, side hustles, and several other financial areas. Now, join thousands of medics who subscribe to the Moneywise Doctor weekly newsletter to receive it straight to your inbox, and it's totally free. Don't miss out. Subscribe now using the link in the description. And now let's jump right back to the episode. So I can't imagine how hard it must have been running the granola business. It must have been like trying to push a rock up a hill. It would just be fueled by your passion, your energy, and tendering towards burnout, basically.
Yeah, I think it was passion, energy, and also again this like proving people wrong thing. And this is because when I was leaving the partnership, which was a really difficult decision, one of the partners that was retiring basically came into my room and said, "You're making a massive mistake. Like this is really bad. Like you're a great doctor, you're a great partner. This is the best partnership you could possibly have, and you're gonna go and make breakfast cereal. Like what the hell are you doing?" Basically.
From doctor to breakfast cereal
Yeah.
maker. That's the part I don't even explore. How did it feel? Like it didn't seem like you have any issues around that identity. Because I've had a Ellie Scott recently on my podcast, and she went from doctor to barista, and she's really enjoying the job. So in your role, going from doctor to making breakfast cereal. By the way, Kellogg's, I'm sure you might know this. Kellogg's used to be a surgeon.
Oh, really?
The chap, yeah, okay. You in breakfast cereal stuff. This is the kind of things that you might be interested in when you were working at the Kellogg. The guy that started Kellogg, I think he was a surgeon before he started. So there have been other doctors that have gone to do breakfast cereals. Take that, retiring partner.
Interesting. I think what I learned from that process was the value add of doctor in your world. So I would be standing in a market selling my granola, or looking at people or chatting to people or whatever, and people would come by and they don't look you in the eye, they don't communicate properly with you, they just taste something and walk off. And I was like, God, there's just no need to be so rude. And on a couple of occasions I would end up in a conversation with somebody about like the sugar content or the health benefits of it, because it was actually I used only organic ingredients, Welsh apple juice, tiny bit of maple syrup. The content of it was really good. And a couple of people were like, "Oh, I can't eat this, I'm diabetic." So I was like, "Well, actually you can, like, and let's have a conversation about that, because I'm actually a GP." And they were like, "Oh," and then people would start talking to me totally differently. It's basically like if you're a GP or a doctor, then I will be nice to you. If you're just somebody selling stuff in a shop, I can treat you like shit. And that was a real eye opener. And that's like the general public sometimes. That was interesting. So I have no problem. I quite like being undercover doctor, actually.
Yeah.
I quite like that whole hiding it. And actually, you'll notice my website, I don't have doctor in front of Joe Watkins. And when I came out of this personal branding, traveling, I don't know what you call it, but just this sort of came out of this saying, right, okay, I know what I want now. I know what my values are. I know what I'm about. I know what I need to start building. I wanted to lose the doctor. I just wanted it to go away. I didn't want to be identified as a doctor. And I remember a couple of business coaches that I worked with ad hoc at that time, particularly when I started a business with a friend of mine, which was all about helping and supporting teenage girls.
Yeah.
Going from primary to secondary school. And a lot of that work was support, like not therapy, but support,
guidance.
We talked about friendship, social media, helping, with all sorts of stuff. And everybody I spoke to about the business was saying, "Joey, you're a doctor. Like that needs to be front of mind on your website, everywhere. Like that's what's going to get people to invest their time and their children into your business." And I just didn't want it. I almost felt this friction. I was like, "Oh, I just don't want to be a doctor anymore. I want it to go away." And it was horrible, actually. And I don't feel like that anymore, because I have grown into those shoes. But I did, for a period of time, just want it to go away. And that was the same period of time that I was trying desperately to leave. I just thought I was done. It wasn't what I wanted to do. It wasn't my identity. It wasn't what I loved. It didn't light me up, and I wanted it to go away.
Wow. So it seems like neither of us are therapists, but it seems like we're delving into an area that many doctors fight with in terms of conflict of identity. I mean, there was a 4-year period where I didn't practice clinical medicine, and and also sort of like my lifestyle now. I might go like 2-3 months, 4 months, and not do a clinical medicine, and then I might have a period I need to make up to get my 40 sessions. And during the years when I didn't do clinical medicine, it was like, yeah, you didn't want to be a doctor, you wanted to be an entrepreneur because you felt that people might think, why are you building a software business? You're a doctor. Or why are you doing business coaching? You're a doctor. And so there's that conflict of identity where there's that one side where you think, oh yeah, you're getting aware of your doctor privileges now. Like when you were selling in the market stalls and people are like, oh, you're a doctor. You weren't aware of the doctor privileges. And now you're suddenly aware of it. And then that the other side where you think people might think, oh, is that all you did with your medical degree? And my friend, whom I've been on her podcast, Abena, said nobody asked doctors, asked lawyers. I think she did a post recently about nobody asked lawyers why are they doing something else. So why do doctors take it? So that's one thing. A lot of times, doctors, there's that big identity that comes with it. You think, oh, why are you writing about finances? Just like me, writing about finances, personal finance, which is an area that I've been in 20 years and have a deep domain knowledge. But someone might say, why? Why don't you write about health or health tech? And I don't wake up in the morning thinking about health tech, except it's an opportunity for an investment or advisory role. So just like you, it seems like the how people or something like that, when you were going to do it, it sounded more like a passion project that could actually be a business, the kind of stuff like Moneywise Doctor, where you are okay if you make money or not. I mean, eventually make money because you do it, you enjoy it, people find out and they pay you anyway. So the how project, could you tell me a little bit more about it? How did that come about? And what was it all about? Did it make any money, or was it just like sort of like charity initiative?
Yeah, that came about at the end of this period of time traveling. So I ended up with 3 distinct business ideas, having spent all of this time doing self-coaching, working out my ikigai, working out my values, where my passions lay, where the problems were, what I could do, what I couldn't do. And I very much wanted to run a business with somebody else. I felt very much like I'd maybe I hadn't made wise decisions because I was on my own. So I very much wanted to be a co-founder in a project next, or in a business next. And I had 3 distinct ideas. One was to support medics who wanted to go out there and do things differently. That was one idea. The second one was to offer some sort of like mentor matching for older teenage girls, like older teenagers into their early 20s, match them with mentors. And the other idea was to support 10 and 11-year-old girls going from primary to secondary who are dropping sport, losing their confidence, using their phones, social media, whatever. I had these 3 ideas, and basically what I did was look at them and think, right, if all of these 3 things were to work out and were to pay me money and were to end up being something that I did, which one of them would have the biggest impact right now? Right. And actually, I had an 11-year-old girl, and I was really concerned with and I still am concerned with what I was seeing in general practice, with low-level anxiety, dropping in self-esteem, and that sort of like ingrained behaviors happening to young teenagers. And that was where I felt most passionate about at the time. And I felt like I had the audience, I had the 11-year-old girl. I thought, actually, we can make this work. And the business partner that I really wanted to work with is a very good old friend of mine who's 10 years younger. And she's just really cool, really on it. And I knew the girls would love her. So I came back with that idea, went to Polly, and I said, I don't know what this is going to look like, but, are you up for it? Let's try and do something together. And we decided to launch as a limited company rather than a charity or a CIC. Because there were various reasons for that, some of which I don't really want to go into at this point, but there were lots of reasons around why a limited company seemed like the right idea. I think that's an interesting discussion, because I think what that does, limited companies reduce or limit the kind of grants that you can go for if you're running a community-based business. And really, before COVID, that's what it was. We ran a project for 16 girls. It was a little bit like a cool version of Brownies, that we did fire building, surfing, communication skills, yoga on the beach. We made we just had a great time with 60, and we did a residential we had an amazing time. And that's when we thought, right, okay, let's try and make this more of a like a franchise business. So let's grow something really good in Swansea, and then let's take it to Bristol, to Bath, to London. So what we did a talks night with inspirational role models. We had like 60 girls, we had 4 speakers, we did like TED Talks for teens, that sort of thing. Awesome. It was like, that was one of the best nights ever. I just loved that night.
Yeah.
And our plan, then we booked out a venue in Bristol, Bath, London in January 2020.
Yeah.
So within
just before.
Within 8 weeks of doing that, we had to ditch everything. So all of our next summer project was done. All of our live stuff was done. You know, basically we just had to stop. And we had about a week where we were like, oh, okay, shit. And you're kind of dealing with what the pandemic's throwing at you. And then I think it was, I sent Polly a voice note on one of my walks, and I was like, you know, this Zoom thing that everyone's on about, why don't we just bring the speakers into Zoom? Why don't we just do a whole load of like inspirational talks for girls on Zoom? So we did that over COVID. We raised about 1,800 quid for charity. We had loads of amazing speakers, and we were basically somewhere that teenagers, you know, young girls between 10 and 16, they were at home doing nothing. They logged on, heard for inspirational role models, and it was brilliant. And we had a little bit of traction. And we still had a pandemic, right? So we were still in lockdown. We were still struggling. And so we had to adapt. And I think entrepreneurship is about pivoting and adapting to the needs.
Pivoting and adapting, yep.
So we had to adapt to the needs. And what was needed right then, right there, is very different than what is needed in real life. Because what everybody was doing was not having the connection and the community. So we created a community every Thursday at 7 o'clock. We had a group of girls. We had 35 girls that were new to us that paid, and 15 people that were already in our world. So we had a group of 50 girls between 10 and 16.
Wow.
Membership every Thursday through COVID. And it was just phenomenal. And, you know, we did everything. We did cookery. We had role models in. We did finger knitting. We did all sorts of different craft. We sometimes just chatted, and there was no judgment. There was no fitting in. It didn't matter how old they were. They supported each other. Yeah. You know, some of the older ones are now at university, and they reflect on that time, and they're like, God, that just was life-saving in COVID for us to have that community. Yeah. But you come out the other side of a pandemic and you've got to adapt. And I think we didn't recognize that need. Like a 10-year-old and a 16-year-old, they're totally different humans.
Different needs.
Yeah. Nah. And that's when we went into schools, and we, you know, it was brilliant. But, you know, you asked whether it was a passion project. We started out as a limited company for good reasons.
Oh, okay.
It was probably a CIC or a charitable business. We had people helping us. We covered all our costs. We didn't pay ourselves any money over the course of the 3 years, but we covered all of our running costs of the business. And we had a little team of people that worked with us to create it. And again, like that learning was just incredible. And we ended up partnering with the Prince's Trust. They approached us. Wow. They wanted to run our courses in schools. And that's where we've kind of paused it, because we got to a point 2 years ago where Polly was my business partner's working for a charity. Tom was homeschooled all of that time. So he was 10 and he was about to go to school.
So who's Tom?
Tom is my number 3.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So the other 2 were in school at this point, and Tom was 10. So he was looking at going into year 6. Yeah. And it was May time. So it was 2 years ago. And I'd had several doctors contact me and say, can you help coach me? Can you mentor me? How do you do this? How do you do that? You know, when you're getting the same emails all the time. Yeah. And I'd done some coaching for 1 or 2 people. I'd really enjoyed it. And I'd invested in, you know, a coaching qualification, and I'd done lots of learning, and I was loving doing that. And one of them, Neris Freighter, who's gone on to do great things, she said to me, Joey, there's a real need for this. Like, people need to have you. You're relatable. Yeah. You've got all this experience. Please, will you go and do this for other people? And And she really gave me the kick. And so I had a chat with my business partner, Polly, and I said, look, I'm getting asked to do this. And when Tom goes to school, I'm going to have more time. What shall I do? And she said, well, why don't you go and do that? Like, go hell for leather and coach and mentor other doctors and see if you can make that work. And then we decided that we'd pause the How People, because I see this as coming back to life again at some point, but as a community-based project, as a project, as something that I can invest in once, it's like putting your oxygen mask on first, isn't it? I can't run a business not paying myself any money. So that's the plan. And one day it will. But I've now got a 9-year-old girl, and I just wish that she had the How People in her life. But I don't want to run it. I want someone else to run it.
Who knows? Who knows? These things have a way of coming back 360, isn't it? Like sort of me back in med school teaching my consultants how to invest. I never thought that maybe like 20 years later I'll still be talking about the same thing. But these things tend to come by because human needs are still there. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it seems like you are moving up the pyramid. You started with food, granola bars, and then you went up to fulfillment, and then you're going up to significance, because for a lot of doctors, run a business sometimes it's not just for food or to make money. Many doctors run businesses where they're making less than they would if they had working locums. But they're looking at significance and fulfillment in the future. And also, I tend to say the amount of freedom you have is directly related to the amount of money you're happy to leave on the table. Because all this while you're running the How People, you're doing all this stuff, you could have gone into A&E literally as a doctor, or gone to GP surgery, worked as a locum, get paid good money, but it probably would not move you up that Maslow's hierarchy of needs in terms of your fulfillment and what you enjoy doing. It seems like you've been through some sort of business and coaching training that is non-structured. You've had some formal ones, but running these businesses, doing this stuff, it's giving you all those tools to deal with people, manage a community, pivot, deal with, like I said, being an entrepreneur is like dealing with fires daily. Every now and then something pops up here, you're putting off, something pops up here, then you get someone that becomes a firefighter in that department that you put, okay, you focus on that department now. I don't want to hear about it. If you come to me and ask me, oh, there's a problem in that department, I say, yeah, what are you gonna do about it? So that's sort of like the journey. Right. So I think we've gone through two, but now let's look at what you're doing now. You are currently helping, you're a business coach for doctors, and I think you clearly defined you've known your values, you figured out what you want to do, and you know those you're able to help most. Who are those people?
The people I'm most able to help, I think, are people like me 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I wish that I'd had that sort of person in my life, somebody that had kids, somebody that understood the juggle, and somebody that really got it. So those are the people I think I help the most. But really, I can help anybody who is wanting to start out as a personal brand or a business, because what I do is I strip away. I'm not looking for tech innovation. I'm not looking for businesses that are wanting all of this investment. And actually, I'm seeing a lot of people out there that think they need all of this investment. And what I need is an app, and what I need is a health tech. And I'm like, no. What you need is just to strip all of that back. And let's go right back to the beginning. What are you doing this for? Why are you doing this? What is this about? What do you want your life to look like? And sometimes they say to me, well, I want to have more time with my children. I want to have the holidays off. And I'm like, well, you don't want a massive business with huge amounts of investment and 15 members of staff. Then that's not work. So I think, it's personal brands, it's life first businesses. It's not all of my clients have children, but a good proportion of them do, because I think that's an added challenge when it comes to business. But a lot of my initial clients are just starting out. Maybe they've done the lifestyle medicine diploma, they've done coaching training or menopause training or something outside of a traditional NHS role, and they're trying to implement it in the NHS, and they're not having the time, or they haven't got the space to do it. That tends to be the format. And people then say, well, I'd like to start my own business. And I basically break that down. I've got I've got plenty of free stuff available. I've got my 30 episodes of my podcast that I sign people to. People are always welcome to email me. I've got a free Facebook page. I've got free stuff you can find on my website. But essentially, what you really need is somebody to hold your hand through those steps.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a program that I created with the first cohort came in about 18 months ago.
Oh, okay.
Names you'd recognize, like Olga Morton, Rosie Khan, Sarah Lou Wiley, Joe Hartley. That they're out there now, up and running, posting regularly. They all came first to me 18 months ago, and I built this program with 16 doctors at the beginning, and I've probably had about 50 in over the course of the 18 months.
Wow.
And you work through from literally like clarity as to who you're helping, how you're helping them, why you're doing this, what your values are, what work do you need to do. I see a lot of medics, particularly coaches, who have 6 months coach training, unearth all sorts of stuff that they maybe need to go away and deal with, and then rush into helping someone else. I've had to do some big hard thinking, particularly about this proving myself thing. Doctors are generally either recovering perfectionists, trying to prove a point, worried about what people think about them, needing everything to be perfect. We've got these traits in us which have been modeled and shown. Like we don't fail. Like you don't get things wrong. I remember I was the mute child on the mute medical student on the side of the bed. I was petrified of and looking stupid, and I just wanted to run away and hide. Whereas now I'm the first person to ask a question, in sort of setting, or send an email, or send a LinkedIn. So I take people through that confidence piece. Have you got the time, the money? Have you got the people around you that you need? Have you got the basics in place? Or you start thinking about apps and, scale, the basics right. Then we do, I talk about market research, how you go out there and do that. People say, well, where do I find these people? I'm like, right, well, that's next, that's the next module. How to get testimonials, and how to grow your email list, and how to grow an audience, and what offers to put together. So it's basically a sort of journey through to your first 3 to 5 paying clients. That's the plan.
That is amazing. That's an area that there's a big gap in, right? Because most times people find people shouting at them on YouTube or Facebook saying, I can help you scale your business from 1 million to 10 million or 100 million. And people are thinking, well, I don't even know whether I have a business. So understand, like, words like product market fit, they sound like buzzwords that have come from Silicon Valley, but basically it means, does someone really need this stuff? Can we find out without spending too much money? Just like me and you, the way we'd operate, basically, if we wanted to offer a product or a service, we don't even build it first. We throw up a landing page, or we call our audience, or even if you don't have an audience, you do it for 1 or 2 people, get some testimonials. So it's basically tiny ways of testing. But most people, maybe because they've come from medical establishment where you walk in and things are set up, like there's a proper running theater, there's a proper running clinic. You don't have to build up everything from scratch. So maybe, do you think that might be a hang up to doctors, our training? I mean, I'll be interested, because you've had 50 doctors now pass through your entrepreneurial training. What are sort of the hindrances? We'll come to the positive, the hindrances you see in terms of medical training, because you mentioned something, being afraid to get it wrong. Meanwhile, entrepreneurship tends to be the number of shots you take on goal would increase your chances. Being an investor is different. Being an investor is like, you can miss all the pitches, you don't have to swing, but when you get a good one, you swing big. So from your experience so far, what are some of the traits you see in doctors that you think might actually be a huge hindrance, or some of the biggest complaints or issues you have at the beginning?
I think the biggest difficulty that I see is that permission to continue, or that whole, yeah, you are ready to make this next move. Because I think we just get so used to somebody signing us off, somebody saying, yes, you can take the next step. Yes, you've got the next exam. Yes, you're ready. You've got all the qualifications, and you've done all the, you've done your 10 smears, or you've done this, that, you're ready for the next stage. So it's that permission to just have a go. Permission to get out there, get scrappy, not be perfect. That's what people struggle with. They hide. And we all love, I think what happens is you go from medicine and then you discover things like Canva, and you're like, oh, I can spend hours making a slide presentation. And it's like, it's fine. I've spent 5 hours doing an Instagram, and it's like we sit there in our little world, creating and worrying that it's not good enough. And nobody's coming along saying, do you know what? That's 70% good enough. That's enough to get out. I think it's something 70% ready, get it out in the world. I just read the book, and it's definitely not perfect, but it's 70% there. And I'm just going to get the first run out there, and I'm just going to give it to, the next few talks I do, I'm going to take it with me and see how it goes. Because otherwise I'm going to sit on it for another year and another year. So I think that, perfectionism, lack of, not having the permission to do it, and worrying about showing up. We all worry about showing up on social media. Everybody has this block. It's like, well, I don't like social media. I was like, well, no one really likes social media. Like, no one wakes up in the morning going, whoa, I'm going to post on Instagram. But you've kind of, if you want to grow a business, nobody's going to do it for you. So I'm very much, I'm much more of a, I really help people organically grow a business. And I would say that those first 3 to 5 paying clients do not come from social media. So you can do this without social media to start with, but you have to be proactive. You have to get out there. You have to send messages. You have to ask people stuff. You have to be brave. And I think that courage of like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you have to send a message. And sometimes I write the WhatsApp message, and I'm like, look, you need to send this to every single person in your WhatsApp. And they're like,
this is really handsome, handsome.
Are you serious? I'm like, yep, I'm serious. And then think about posting on social media, growing your brand awareness, all of that stuff. But that comes secondary to actually the braveness of, like you say, testing and doing something as quickly as possible. Quick landing page. Who am I looking for? Let's find 10 of them. Let's get in a room. Let's talk to them about the problems they're facing. Does anyone actually need this? And I think the How People is a really good example of something that actually I really needed it, because I was homeschooling 2 kids. But we were selling it to people whose children went to school. So when the pandemic stopped, most people actually, I mean, I don't mean this to sound the way it is, but most of us, and I do it now as well, we hand over our education to school, hoping that it gets done, right?
Yeah.
We don't really think too much about it sometimes. We just hope that the kids are happy. Yeah. But I was, I'm quite passionate about the education system and what they should be learning. And I was probably trying to sell something to people that didn't really think that was much of a problem, and probably we should have focused more on the homeschool market. So I think quick testing experiments, showing up when you're 70% ready, and being really bloody brave.
This could save you several thousands of pounds, not just in your taxes and pensions. Have you fallen into the 60% tax trap as a doctor or healthcare professional without even knowing? It's crazy. I know you think the highest tax you can pay is 45%, but here's how it works. If your income exceeds 100,000, you start to lose your personal tax allowance, and by the time you hit about 125,000, you've lost your entire tax allowance. This means you're paying an effective tax rate of 60%. That's not good. You lose a lot of other benefits with it. Now, if it's something you've never thought about, or you're worried you're not sure how to navigate it, you're in luck, because I've written a very clear guide with a 10-point checklist that you can use to avoid the 60% tax trap. One of the biggest ones is obviously paying more into your pension, but there are 9 other steps you can take. Check the link in the description and download it for free. Let me know if it helps. Let's jump right back into the episode. Being really bloody brave. Now let's talk a little bit about that. I think with doctors, really, most people worry about, people from my secondary school see me, and they think, you've been a doctor, now you're just on social media telling everybody about your business, or they're worried about their colleagues, they're worried about judgment, and the big one, some people think that just being on social media, their patients will see them and GMC will take away their license. So that's where being brave comes in. So in your program, sort of like, what do you say to doctors about that, about showing up? Because in 2025 you've got to show up. You've got to show up. And you're a flaming example for this, right? We don't show up with Ferraris. That would be, if I had a red one packed out there now, then that would be a full-blown midlife crisis. But but you show up the way you are. I think I remember you saying, oh, I was supposed to have a Zoom meeting, it didn't work out. I had to, like, maybe things didn't come on right, and you had to run to the next house at some point, you mentioned, to get it all set up. And then you've had to do stuff like you were traveling with your daughter, going on the train. It's nothing flashy, but you showing up as a human being, as a real person. Now this is my day to day, and it's not all sales, because you're selling without being how do I say it? You're selling without the slog. You're selling without them. Basically,
if we don't do this, we are going to be in big trouble. And I need to take a bit of my own advice here. But I think now in this world of AI and content creation, it is more important than ever to show up, because we can't see, we need that human connection, and we need to know who we are getting help from. And people don't want to read reams of content. They want to see you, realize you're human. They've got to like you to be able to work with you. Like, if people come into my world and they expect me to be all glossy and nice and not swear at them and kick them up the butt, and I don't generally, I've put a bit of makeup on for you today, Andy, but generally I've got my hair everywhere, and I'm not that glossy, like California beach babe business coach. And you've got to relate to the person that is helping you. So visibility is part of this, and if you can't get your head around it, then maybe you might want to consider that this isn't for you, because I don't think there's any way of avoiding it. Nobody, like I say, nobody likes doing this particularly, but when you are being yourself, there's no friction, there's no difficulty. It's actually just showing up as you are, warts and all, and being an honest, authentic version of yourself. And that is more important than ever. It's really busy. It's so much busier online than it was a year ago, 3-4 years ago, totally different kettle of fish. So I think we have to. And do you know what? Nobody cares. Your colleagues don't care. Your patients care. The NHS, the GMC certainly doesn't care. But also, I think this is where it's important to know who you're helping. So because, I'm quite specific about who I have on my email list. I want doctors who are doing things differently, or who want to run a personal brand or a side hustle. So what I love most of all is, next week I'm going away for a few days with my best friends from university. The vast majority of them have no idea what I'm doing. And that's totally okay, because they're not my ideal clients.
They're not your ICP.
They are not. So why should they know my every move? And what, it's people that follow me and that are interested in what I have to offer that will be part of my day-to-day, like following on LinkedIn, etc. But some of my closest friends have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm really proud of that, because it means I'm not just collecting email addresses and followers, because it's just vanity metrics, right? 2 million followers, 2,000, you just know one by one by one by one, until you find somebody who says, do you know what, this is exactly what I need. And I think it's more important to repel people, not right for your business, and then you will attract people that you can actually help.
It's interesting you say that. There are quite a few nuggets in that. Like Moneywise Doctor, people always say, we've got a lot of lawyers and accountants and engineers who follow our stuff, and people always say, oh, can other people who are not doctors use it? And I've had 2 people reach out to me from the US to say, is there something for people in the US? And I've had like 17 people from Canada, but the 10,000 people in the UK we help are doctors based in the UK. There might be 3 or 4 physiotherapists, 1 nurse, and all that. But the people that they expect your email, they know, they like, the trust, hopefully. they're quite a niche. So other than in the past when people did marketing or branding by maybe just throwing a bomb or scatter, just throw it out all over there, it's on TV, you don't know who sees it. Nowadays it's a bit more personalized, isn't it? It's a bit more like sniper approach. This is who I'm looking for. If you're that person, they gravitate to you, and that's the whole point of showing up, because you need to show up for people to even know that you've got this thing to offer. So that's a really a huge part. And I think like what you said is starting. People need to start, and you don't need a big moves in the first place. Just committed. You show up every day, you put up some posts, share what you're doing, share your learnings, share who you've helped. You'll be surprised how much it gravitates, because a lot of time people say, oh, I've got like 60,000 people on my email list, but their open rate is 20% or 30%. I'm like, yeah, if I was an acquirer and I wanted to acquire that business, I wanted to invest in that business, the terms, first of all, you look at the open rate before you start looking at what's the engagement. Because a lot of time people think about numbers, which is good, but it's just the typical problem people make. Like they go for revenue, they'll think, oh, I've generated like £1 million revenue, but revenue, like they say, is just vanity. And profit is sanity, and cash is king. Right. So your program now, is that like a year's program, or is that like a
I've got to before I say, I totally agree with you, and I think what people need to remember is that if they're at the beginning of their business, they've got an email list of 0 and a following of 0. What they need is traction. So that specificity gives them traction in a busy workplace. You now are at a very different position. You could sell something different quite easily because you've got a brand, you've got people that know, like, and trust you, you've got testimonials, you've got people that you've worked with. And I think what we're doing is medics are going out there and they're seeing people like, I said something the other day about like Tony Robbins could sell a line of underwear now if he wanted to.
He can definitely.
Mel Robbins could sell sunglasses because reading glasses, because they are different. You are not either of those people. You're starting out, so traction is important. But I always say to people, if I'm helping a photographer now, I'm helping a dentist. I have had a journalist. So if they come to me, then they can have the same information. But I go out there and help medics. So my program, I've got 2 parts to it now. I've got a clarity starter kit, which is the initial part of the program, the first 3 modules, plus a one-to-one and WhatsApp group support. And I run that in June, October, and February. And that basically gives you an opportunity to come in, for me to help you refine your niche, to work out what this looks like and work out whether you're ready to carry on with it. If you're ready to carry on, then you get the second part of the program with a bit more support from me. And then if we've got you up and running and you've got your first 3 to 5 paying clients and you're running like Ruth is, or like Joe Hartley or Olga or all of those guys, then you would come into an ongoing membership where I have a masterclass, I run a sort of connect session, and I do a Q&A hot seat. So I have coaching, group coaching, contact with me, content that you can absorb yourself, and the most important thing is community. But every single one of those doctors, if I'd said to them, what you need is a community of other doctors just like you, they'd be like, no, I don't.
Yeah, that's a funny bit, but because you're behind the scenes and you've seen again and again. It's the same thing we're seeing in the Moneywise Doctor Mastermind. You see that, you provide the value because you are the curator and you do everything, but you see a massive amount of value coming from, I didn't even know, I didn't know he had that in him. I didn't realize. We see in our mastermind people sharing spreadsheet and Notion templates, and you see doctors who knew absolutely 0 about their finances, and suddenly they are telling people, no, you can't do this. If you do that, you end up paying more to HMRC. And having that community bit, if you try to say, you have a community, most people don't value it, but it turns out sometimes to be the big thing. Because it is
the big thing, but like you say, nobody feels like they want it, but it's got to be right. And I've done a few iterations of this. When I first started, it was a evergreen group program, and people would join every month. But what I've realized about doctors is they are a competitive bunch. and what happens is that people start feeling like, somebody's come in and they're behind me and now they're ahead of me. And somebody like Ruth is not, Ruth is Ruth Machin is hashtag no job, no kids. That's what she always says to me, because she's retired from her job as a radiologist, got no children. And she says to people in my community, she's like, I can move quickly because I have more time than you do. So don't compare yourself to people who are trying to fit this in around a full-time job with 3 children. Not going to have enough time. So you're running your own race. Just concentrate on what you're doing and not what everyone else is doing. But you've got to have people who get what you're about in your world. You have to. And that LinkedIn is just fabulous. Like, it's just a wonderful place of incredible doctors. I mean, you know, incredible medics out there doing like you and, you know, Richard and the community that we're in together. Just brilliant people. So just get your hands dirty and get involved. But, you know, anyone that wants to find out more, you know, you find me wherever you can find me. But whoever you look out to, whether it's me or someone else, you just need someone to help you over those really difficult hurdles at the beginning. And then you can fly. And I love nothing more than watching my clients fly. Because they're going out there, and the ripple effect, the impact they're having, I'm like a proud mother hen.
Fly with Joe. Check that domain and block it out, since you like quirky domains. I've actually got like 60 something domains, like just packed, and I've collected over the last 20. They're like a heirloom. Maybe I'll hand it over.
I love a domain. Everyone always worries about their domain. I'm like, you should see how many I've bought over the years.
Yeah, nobody cares. Eventually, I use some of it, and sometimes I get to sell it. Someone offers me ChatGPT Doctor.ai. I bought that like 3 years ago, when I thought, well, this could be something. Yeah, wow, it's been a lot. I feel like we just scratched the surface here.
Well, it's lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm sure many people listening might want to find out a bit more, like what's Joe all about, and you know, people who are engaged. You have 30 podcasts now, you said. So some people might want to go that. That's quite a few. That helps you to do your 9-11-4, so people can find you, have enough content to consume to know what you're about. And then they can find you on LinkedIn. They can find you on my podcast, your podcast, and wherever else. And go ahead. So where's the main place you like people to look out for you?
I think you can find me at joewatkins.com, and that's got links to everything. But I think if you're interested, then please just immerse yourself in the podcast. If you're not sure where to start, just send me an email and I will signpost you depending on what you need. That's what I'm really loving about the podcast, is being able to say, this is what you want to know about, listen to this one and this one. So LinkedIn is where I generally am from a social media point of view. You can direct message me. But if you're interested in learning more, I think the biggest thing is to know that as somebody starting out, you've got to back yourself and invest in yourself. None of this is cheap. None of this is easy. But, you know, if you want to start out, it's worth spending a bit of money, having me or somebody else to support you. To work out, is this what you want to do? What does it actually look like? And then you're going to be flying. But that investment in yourself first is something that people struggle with. So just reach out to me for a chat anytime.
Wow. Well, we'll have links on the screen, but I didn't think we should miss that point, that invest in yourself. It's funny that people should spend tens of thousands of pounds and go to med school or train to whatever they want to be. And they want to become an entrepreneur, or they want to sort out. It's crazy. Some people save 25, 30, 40, 50K just from having a one-to-one session. And I think it's so cheap for you if you pay a few £100 here and there. It's the same with you if someone pays a bit of money to invest in themselves, in their training, to learn how not to make costly mistakes in business. As I said, as I'm approaching my 40s, I'm beginning now to value more and more. In my 20s, when I was 21, I could be scrappy, startup founder, run around, get things done. But now you value your time, so you don't want to make mistakes. I'm sometimes happy to offer someone 5 figures or even more, just if they've been where I want to go, and I want them to show me what the journey is like, what pitfalls. I don't even think about it. So be ready to back yourself, invest in yourself. And of course, if you're not yet there, joewatkins.com, there's a lot of free resources, free stuff. Go have a look and look for Jo on LinkedIn. Send her a message. She's always very, very relatable and easy to reach. So have you got any last things you want to say before You go off to enjoy the sunshine in Wales?
Oh, well, no, absolutely. Just completely echo everything that you've said, and it's not easy. And don't expect, like you say, we invest all of this time and money into our medical training, and we have to expect bumps along the way, but don't let it hold you back. And if you get to a point where you're really feeling that friction, like I've explained, go back to your why. Like, what is this about? Why are you doing it? It's not about running away from medicine or making, solving your burnout. Like, go deeper than that. And if you need to have some support, some therapy, some coaching for yourself, then do that, because you've got to thrive as an entrepreneur. You can't come into it on the background of feeling burnt out and frustrated, because it's not going to be an easy option. But it's so fun, and I have met the most incredible people, and I feel alive doing what I'm doing now. I really do. And one day I hope that this will enable us to leave the NHS completely. But at the moment, I'm still doing my GP, maybe 3 days a month. Dave's working 3/4 time. We spend 3 months traveling every year. We've got a really great work-life balance, and I actually go to work now and I enjoy being a GP now. And 5 years ago I would have I wanted to run a mile. So it's an evolution. Be brave and just get out there and just do it.
Be brave, go out there, just do it. I can imagine you're sort of like looking forward to the day you go to do clinical jobs now. It's like very fulfilling, and you're chatting with the 90-year-old, and it's a bit more relaxed.
But it's on our terms, right? And that's the difference.
Yeah.
And financially we still need it, but it's all on our terms. So how do you make medicine work for you? How can you change your working week? How can you change your commitments? It's all possible.
Freedom, fun, flexibility, and finance. Dr. Joe Watkins, thank you for joining us on the Moneywise Doctor Podcast. I suspect, let's see, we might be having you back, or we'll be talking a bit more, but it's been lovely having you. And we'll put your links on the screen, and people can reach out to you. Thank you for joining us.